Wine there, ladies and gents, and what an exquisite day it is. A good day is any for me to remind you of one of the most valorous sons of the South, known to friend and enemy alike as Lex Luthor. My stars and bars, you look perplexed, but it's true. Lex Luthor achieved what every red-blooded Confederate soldier strived for, and caused the demise of Abraham Lincoln. You heard that right, there's an actual story published by DC Comics where Lex Luthor allows the Abraham Lincoln assassination to happen, and you're lucky enough to have a comic book scholar like me to tell you about it. It was published in 1960 during the Silver Age of comics, a time where your favourite superheroes would turn into monsters, get into ludicrous situations, and act like total dicks on the front covers to bait you into buying the comics out of curiosity. The story I'm spotlighting is from Superboy issue 85. Back then, this line of comics consisted of stories about Clark Kent before he was an adult, usually during his adolescence growing up in Smallville. Along with Adventure Comics, the other comic series from the time which featured Superboy, it introduced and had the earliest stories involving what became staples of many Superman iterations, such as Krypto the Superdog and the Phantom Zone Criminals. This story, titled The Impossible Mission, doesn't feature those though. So what does it have? Well, strap in. The comic starts off right away with Superboy and his adopted parents watching actual footage of Lincoln's death on Superboy's time scanner machine. Immediately, there's one of the many convenient science fiction contraptions featured in the Silver Age that the characters would rarely use despite how useful it would be. Imagine the potential of a machine that could make you look at any time and place in history. Superboy could use this machine to learn about anything firsthand and can look into the future or past to see when things are going to happen. Though when you think about it, if Superboy used the time scanner to look into the near future to prevent disasters and crimes from happening, then that would alter the continuum of time. Unless the time scanner can only look into the past, that is. They don't explain it. I'm just going to assume that the writers back then didn't anticipate that snarky comic book enthusiasts would be picking their work apart 65 years later. Not only that, but Ma and Pa Kent would have been born in the late 19th or very early 20th century in this comic, and they're watching real footage of a man getting his brains blown out. Imagine gathering your grandparents around your laptop to watch live leak videos with them. Moving on from the Kent household snuff film watch party, the trio attend a speech made by the mayor of Smallville from his bully pulpit in a classic politician's pose like he thinks he's Theodore Roosevelt. This comic might be what taught me that Abraham Lincoln Day is an actual holiday in the States. Americans like to mythologize their politicians. Here in the United Kingdom, we don't have a Harold Macmillan Day. Spurred on by this, Superboy decides it's time to disrupt history. Oh yeah, he actually tries that. He flies so fast that he goes through the time barrier. Superman and Superboy comics used this a lot back in the Silver Age. Anytime the writers wanted a story set in a different time period, they would just send him back in time like this. I can go into the glaring issues with this from both a writing and practical standpoint, but I would be going over what I said about the time scanner again. Anyway, once in 1865, Superboy searches for Lincoln by looking through the White House and then the hotel Lincoln stayed in. All of this snooping through houses makes you wonder what kind of disturbing things Superboy has seen. Ugly arguments, people having war flashbacks, and all sorts of nasty habits. I've always wondered if the people of Smallville Metropolis have privacy concerns living in the same area as someone who can look and hear through walls.
Yes, it does. It has everything to do with it. It has everything for you to sit here.
So Superboy finds the room he thinks Mr. Lincoln is staying in, only to find none other than Lex Luthor. By an astounding coincidence, Lex Luthor has also travelled back in time to the exact time and place Superboy chose to go to. Luthor has come prepared though with some red kryptonite, which in this instance freezes Superboy in place. For those of you who aren't educated in Superman lore, red kryptonite is a certain kind of kryptonite that instead of weakening Kryptonians like the regular stuff does, changes Kryptonians in weird and unpredictable ways. It's essentially a wild card that writers use whenever they need an excuse to do something they want. What that doesn't explain is, why did Lex Luthor think red kryptonite would necessarily stop Superboy in his tracks? Sure, he got lucky that this time it froze Superboy to the spot, but he didn't know it would do that. Red kryptonite has turned Superman into a giant alien dragon, made Superboy giant, and given Superman the upper head of an ant. For all Lex Luthor knew, that red kryptonite could have made Superboy uncontrollably shoot flesh-melting spunk at 30 miles an hour. Lex Luthor tells Superboy the reason why he's also in 1865 is that while on the run from the adult Superman, he just casually invented a time machine to escape Superman by going back in time, taking some red kryptonite with him in his 12-sided die-shaped time machine in case he wanted to play Dungeons & Dragons with Titano. I like how Lex Luthor building a time machine is just presented like a normal thing he would do, and not, dear lord, this dangerous criminal can now hop to any time period he pleases. He could have gone back in time to rob people with advanced technology. He could take ancient artifacts, bring them to the modern day, and sell them for enough profit to build anything he wants. He could get a sports almanac, but no, he just feels like vibing in the 19th century. Little does Lexi Boy realize Superboy's intention of preventing Abraham Lincoln's assassination, since Superboy can't even speak. I like how other than the red kryptonite thing, Lex Luthor didn't plan on doing anything nefarious while going back to the day of Lincoln's death. He's only chilling at the end of America's Civil War and just uses the opportunity of an immobilized Superboy to blow cigar smoke in his face and have a shower argument with him. John Wilkes Booth must be getting impatient at this point.
Oh shit! Hamlet! I can't watch this! Hey everybody, I can't watch this!
Well, some of us are trying to.
John, please. Who said that? Which one of y'all dead motherfuckers just said that shit?
At one point, Lex Luthor calls him Un-Superboy. That's the best insult he could come up with. The man's a master criminal and scientific genius, but a world-class wordsmith he is not. Even Mr. McZizbatalk showed more mastery of the English language when he would call him Super Sap or something like that. Eventually, Superboy is delayed long enough that the inevitable happens, and... wait a minute. Sic Semper Tyrannis? Death to all tyrants? That's not what I was taught, John Wilkes Booth said when he killed Honest Abe.
Oh no! John Wilkes Booth! Hasta la vista, Abe.
I also like how John Wilkes Booth inaccurately translates the phrase into English for those who won't recognize Latin. This is a class-inclusive murder. Is he swinging down by a curtain thread? My good man, that won't hold your body weight. You're just going to test out Ford Theater's full damage. Before you could say, frankly my dear, I don't give a damn, Lex Luthor realizes that Superboy wasn't out to get him this time, but was trying to save Lincoln.
Oh! Now you fucked up! Now you fucked up! Now you fucked up! You have fucked up now! Now you fucked up! 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 Now you have fucked up!
He even states that while he's evil, he has no hate for Lincoln. Because as we all know, evil people will plainly declare that they're evil. Flexi Lexi retreats to his giant transparent D12 to wallow in his guilt. You would think a psychopath like him wouldn't care about causing a historical event that in his timeline he knew would have always happened anyway. But Lex Luthor proves to be a big fan of President Lincoln.
Just what point are you trying to make? Do you not like Lincoln?
Yeah, of course we like Lincoln. He freed the slaves.
This might explain why I haven't read any comics with this time machine. Lex Luthor might have destroyed it out of remorse. Having failed spectacularly, Superboy returns to his own time after the red kryptonite wears off. He tells his parents about this, who if only they could have, they would have hopefully disciplined him for trying to fuck with history. Haven't any of them heard of the butterfly effect? If you change history in even a tiny way, it can make huge changes to whatever follows after. Dang Yankees. If Lincoln survives his theater visit, who knows what might have changed? Ma and Pa Kent might never have met. Superboy could have been found and raised by child abusers who would have given the Kryptonian lad severe mental health issues before unleashing him into the world. Imagine if Superman had that upbringing. To rub salt in the wound, the Kents eventually take Clark to the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Clark comments that not even he could change fate and there's no use going back in time again to do so. Why not? I don't see why Superboy didn't just go back again, but to the day before the Lincoln assassination, so we could just take John Wilkes Booth to another part of America to prevent him taking out Lincoln. So I'm just going to assume it's because his frontal lobe hadn't fully developed yet and his adopted parents chose not to give him any ideas. What was the point of stopping the Lincoln assassination anyway? I'm not saying Lincoln should have died at the theater, but the best accomplishments of his presidency had already happened. I doubt he would have topped stopping the Union from splitting and ending slavery. For all we know, the rest of his presidency could have been worse. The next president was Andrew Johnson, but I don't know anything about him. If there are any historians watching this, tell me how he was. Since this comic is from 1960, don't you worry, Clark. You'll live to see another presidential shooting that you won't prevent either. At least you'll get to bitch slap the next president who gets shot. Now you know the story of how Lex Luthor became the patron saint of Tennessee, West Virginia, and French Algeria. And why I do believe that this hero of the South should get his own Confederate-themed comic book series. And how glorious would that be? After all, tomorrow is another day.